Okay, so you guys are in for a treat. Today I interviewed my coach, David Foster, who I've worked with for years personally to help me not only in my real estate business, but in my coaching business and with my personal growth. And I've spent a lot of money to work with this man, and I keep coming back. And there's a reason for that. There's something different about how David coaches versus how anyone else does. And he's always had a way of helping me come up with my own solutions, making me feel self-empowered, not telling me what to do, but making me stronger and a better decision maker as a result. And so I really wanted to bring him on the show and just ask him, like, how do you coach this way? You know, how can the listeners, you become better coaches? Because becoming a better coach is one of the best ways to get and retain clients. When you give somebody a powerful experience on a call, they're going to want to work with you more. You know, grab a coffee, grab a snack, and sit down, grab a notepad, and just enjoy this interview with David Foster. You're never going to find another coach quite like him, and I will see you in the interview. What's up, everybody? Brian Elwood, and today I am super excited because I have a special guest on the line by the name of David Foster. And David Foster has been my personal coach for actually the better part of the last decade. I've paid this gentleman a lot of money, and it has been well worth it. And I think he's the best, just pure all around coach that I've ever worked with. In fact, I don't think that, I'm sure of it. And so I reached out to David and I said, hey, would you be willing to be interviewed by me on what does it take to become a great coach? Because David believes that one of the best ways to grow your coaching business is actually by becoming a better coach. Imagine that. And so he graciously agreed to come on and unpack what he's learned in his journey of becoming a great coach. So welcome to the show, David, and thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you, Brian. And thank you for inviting me on and having me on your channel for this interview. As you were talking, I had a little memory pop in from when we first started working together all those years ago when I was an E-Myth business coach. And I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but
Please.
I think it kind of sets the context for what's possible with coaching and hard work on your behalf as well. But you kind of had a conversation with me saying actually you had a dream to have an education business and to help people by sharing what you know and what you've learned about, help them empower themselves and develop their lives. And we're now here and you're doing that. And that, when we first started working, you were in real estate and you weren't a coach, you weren't an educator, you weren't a thought leader, you weren't an author, and you're all of those things now. So it's a nice moment to be here, being with you, given that kind of background, to see how far you've come. So well done.
I appreciate that. And I want to dig into that moment a little bit more because I think it's important. But why don't you just give the sort of condensed version of your backstory and how you got to be where you are, kind of what you're up to today before we dive into that.
Condensed version. Okay. So I grew up in a family with a dad who was a business owner, an entrepreneur, and ever since I could remember, wanted to be just like Dad, wanted to be a business owner. And so I started my first business at the age of 10 in my hometown of Wisbech at my school, and always was very driven to succeed and compete and to try and create some kind of success. And if I fast forward to about 2011, my first son was born. And at that time, I was involved in a few businesses with a business partner, and we'd had some big successes and some big failures, actually. And I was in a whole world of pain, mentally and emotionally, and just very disconnected from who I wanted to be in the world because of the pressures that I'd created inside my business. And my first son was born, and I had this kind of epiphany. I woke up and said, I'm done. I'm done with chasing this thing called success that wasn't actually fulfilling. It was more kind of, I think, trying to get recognition and to be seen as having achieved something by other people. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to help other people who were kind of where I was. And then about 6 months later, I listened to an audiobook called E-Myth which Brian knows. E-Myth Revisited, a brilliant book for business owners, coaches. And I had tears streaming down my face. It was the first book I'd heard where they actually stepped inside what it was like to really be an entrepreneur, a business owner. And I tried to become one of their clients because I, at that stage, was getting out of my business relationships and wanted to do consultancy and help other people. And I actually had one session and I was like, you know what? I don't want to be a client. I want to be a coach. And they were enrolling for new coaches. They just got rid of all their international coaches and they were looking for new business coaches. And I ended up on this journey over the next 6 months, becoming a certified business coach and traveling to the States several times and doing trainings and putting a lot of time, energy, attention, and just fell in love with this profession called coaching. So coaching kind of found me, really. And so that's how I kind of got into coaching. That's how we know each other, because you were an E-Myth client many moons ago. So is that condensed enough, or is there anything else you'd like to know?
Yeah, and finish the story too, from the time you started with E-Myth to where you are today too, just so people kind of have the bow on it.
Yeah, okay, I'll get the bow out. So had some amazing years with E-Myth, was taught by some fantastic coaches, people like Joseph Shapiro, Adam Traub, Slade Mackamer, Jonathan Raymond, to name a few. And then 3-4 years in, started to kind of fall out of love with the kind of way that the coaching was being delivered and the organization. And I was longing for a deeper connection with clients, and not to be so focused around business, because I love doing the deep dives around values, purpose, authenticity, people's being, and really helping people be themselves and create from that place. And I kept getting kind of reined back in by E-Myth, because I would be going down the kind of personal life coaching route with business too. And they said, no, you've got to kind of get back to building systems and helping people with this and that. And so I was like, I need to walk my own path here. So I chose to then come out of E-Myth, and I wanted a way to do that, because I didn't really know how to create my own clients outside of the E-Myth ecosystem, because you were given people to work with, or you created your own clients, and we had this whole kind of brand behind us to go, hey, we're E-Myth, come and work with us. Very different to being an independent coach. And so my coach at the time, Joseph, recommended Rich Litvin, who co-authored The Prosperous Coach with Steve Chandler. And he said, Rich is a good guy. You might want to consider some of his stuff. And I then ended up working with Rich in one of his groups. After that, I felt really moved and inspired to work with Steve Chandler, who taught Rich. Rich went to, I think, 4 of his advanced client systems programs and was coached personally by Steve for many years. So, and then worked with Steve Chandler for a good period of time, 2.5 years around that, and haven't really looked back. So now where I'm now is I still work with a handful of ambitious business owners who I've been with for a long time, because we're working on big missions. But I love working with professional coaches too, based around helping them create authentic lives, really be themselves, and put their unique genius into everything that they do, so they can create from a very solid, foundational, authentic place.
I love that. And, in case we didn't mention it, that was when I found you. I was one of your clients when you were an E-Myth coach. I think you might have mentioned that. But there was something special or different about you, even from back then. I think, like, I would guess that the other E-Myth coaches were very much just, okay, this client needs leads. Let's give them module 3, section 2. Hey, this is how to, build your marketing plan. But you were kind of on the call with us, and you'd be like, so how do you know you need more leads? And me and Frank, my former business partner, would be like, and there was already that theme of even though you had a very great process, the E-Myth, their processes are, airtight. You still kind of had this undercurrent of like self-empowerment in your coaching, even with the E-Myth, where you weren't really just trying to give us a bunch of stuff. I mean, yeah, at the end of the call, you'd be like, here's a process, or I'm going to email you some stuff. But we felt like we grew, during the calls because you made us do the deep work and the deep reflection. It sounds like you maybe noticed that about yourself, and that's maybe what kind of pushed you out of it. I'm just curious, like how you came to be that way. Have you always been that way, or did you have an experience or an epiphany in your life that made you, more on the side of, I guess, self-empowerment versus strategies, tactics, systems, things like that?
Thank you for that. It's a really, really great question. And I think it's quite hard to kind of observe oneself and answer it with a one-liner. So, oh, yeah, I woke up on the 15th of September and I had this epiphany. It's not really like that for me. I think I've always been naturally a curious person. Maybe didn't express that curiosity externally, more internally. But I think where the question that you mentioned came from, and that kind of style of coaching, I think it came from just being guided by some brilliant coaches myself. Because you can have the natural curiosity in life, but actually, if you don't really have the language and skills to understand how coaching really works, it's quite difficult to come up with those intuitive questions. So I think it's a blend of natural curiosity and a care for people, and always wondering, well, what's this really about and why, and deep thinking, combined with working with some brilliant coaches. And I learn very much by being with someone and experiencing how to coach and being coached. And then I take elements that have impacted me and then use them with my clients. So I can't kind of say I was born with this and it's all my work. I think I've picked up, and I think that's one of the best things you can do as a professional coach is to actually have a coach that you aspire to be like in some way, shape, or form, who you really admire for their skills and their wisdom, because you'll soak up a lot of their genius yourself just by being with them, much more than a book or a quick video here and there. So if anyone's watching who is a pro coach and you haven't got a coach, I'd encourage you to explore getting one, because it's one of the best ways to develop your skills as a coach. And the better coach you become, you tend to get more referrals and more stable practice, etc. So hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so as early as when we first started working in the E-Myth environment, you noticed that I wanted to get into the education business. But you didn't ever say, Brian, why don't you start an education business? You really kind of let me figure that out on my own. And and really through all of our relationship, you've never been like, what the hell are you doing? Why don't you shut down your podcast and do this other thing instead? And so why not? Why do you kind of bite your tongue and hold back on telling me and other people what to do, and instead, let us figure it out on our own?
Yeah, it's the essence of pure coaching, really. And so my belief is that every human being has an untapped well of creativity that lives inside them, that is kind of bubbling away and just needs encouragement to come out. And what can dampen that creativity, I think, and someone's natural voice coming through and their own expression coming through, is being told what to do. Because people, if you tell someone what to do, no one really likes being told what to do, and you don't know how they're going to take it. So having people discover answers for themselves, where the insights really kind of drop in and let that creativity start to flow out, and they then start to see through their own experience they have got the resources they need inside themselves to make the best decision for them, or to really ask for what they want in life and to own that, is magical. That's really empowering the person, which is what coaching is all about. Consultancy is different. Consultancy is you're paying someone to come in and tell you what they know to help you make progress quicker to a degree. But when the consultant's gone, you haven't got anyone to ask the question of anyone, get the answer. So by empowering people to find the answer themselves, they're good to go. And it's my aim as a coach to kind of get clients to a place where they don't need me anymore. They can still want to work with me, but they don't need to, because they realize they've got everything they need inside themselves to create whatever they want in their life.
That's beautiful. And how do you market that? Isn't that tricky to offer basically self-empowerment to the market, instead of saying, I'll get you 10 grand a month. I have a strategy, I'll be a business consultant. You're a coach, and you're saying, when you work with me, you're actually going to come out a completely different person, self-empowered. Your well of creativity is going to be tapped. But it's kind of hard without them experiencing coaching from you to know what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, good question. Yeah. So I've only started actively marketing. And when I say marketing, I mean, I've got an email list, and I have used Facebook consistently for the last 18 months, I think, having played with it and trying to work out what the hell Facebook was for 6 months, because I didn't use social media at all, really, apart from personal stuff. So that's the kind of marketing that I do. But my business is built on referral and word of mouth in the main. I have got a few things from the marketing perspective from my book. So I wrote this book called Where's Dad? That is really a story about how coaching changes lives. And people who have read that, if the story touches them, they reach out to me and say, I read it and I feel like the business owner who's the main character, or I'm looking for a new coach. Could we talk? So that tends to give people an experience through the written word on a much deeper level than, say, one Facebook post of what I'm about and how I work. But I market it by just expressing myself with writing. One of the things I love to do is record videos, create content, and write. So I pick subjects that I have found interesting for me over the years, where I've had insights that have helped cure problems or certain symptoms or scenarios in my life. And I try and share that in a way that educates people. And people then reach out from time to time, and we get in conversation. And so that's all the marketing I tend to do, apart from my weekly email, which people kind of sign up for along the same kind of thread. So I'm not a typical kind of, let's use the word digital coach, where I kind of pound marketing left, right, and center. I've played with that to a degree, because I was trying to understand how this social media thing kind of works, which is a dark art in itself from what I understand. But so did that answer your question? I kind of felt I went off the beaten track a little bit there.
Yeah.
Did it get you what you wanted?
Yeah, I just, when you were saying the difference between a coach and a consultant, that's what popped in my mind is people, when they're scrolling Facebook and they're trying to solve, what they think they need is not usually what they actually need. They think they need to make 6 figures with their coaching business, or they need to find their partner, or they need to lose the weight or whatever. But what they might actually need is the deep inner transformation that's ultimately going to lead to that external result. So it just struck me that, by you taking what I consider to be the high road and helping people with self-empowerment, you give yourself an additional challenge of talking about it, and I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
Well, my thoughts are that I kind of practice what I preach. So I love working in that area of deep work, of authenticity, self-empowerment, personal development. And it's not that I can't do the other stuff like the business building and the systems building and the vision creation, all those sort of things. I like that, and I can do it really well proficiently, with the experience I've had of being a business owner and being a business coach and helping people all over the world. But I coach people how to do what they love in life and get paid handsomely well for doing it, and to stay on that kind of path, even if it takes time. So if I'm not doing that myself, I'm kind of out of integrity, really. Absolutely. So I've chosen that kind of higher road, as you say, and it can be challenging at times, because people don't tend to want to do the deep work and to look introspectively. The only way out of your problems is to go inside, in my perspective, in my system. That's my experience of life. So you might think you need more leads or something else outside of you to make you feel better, when actually there's something on the inside that is being externally reflected, that if you looked at that would probably be the biggest lever for change. And often with professional coaches, the people I love working with most, it's because they have this hidden creativity that wants to express itself living inside them, much like I did before I wrote my book. I kind of the thought of me ever writing a book 10 years ago, I had the secret dream, but I failed English at school and remember having the red pen on my English homework from the teacher and getting my grammar wrong and not being very good at these sort of things. So, but there's something in me that wanted to come out. And through some powerful coaching I received, I started to see that as being a possibility. So I love doing that with other people because a lot of professional coaches have this inner creator they want to express that often comes with working on their internal value, their self-worth, if you like, all these things that you may have heard of before. And when you find those areas and you start to unlock them, and the person starts to deepen their trust in themselves and really own their unique gifts and their genius, that unlocks the door to let the creativity flow out. And that has massive value to people. It may not be a case of getting to 6 figures in 6 weeks, but your experience of life and your feeling of fulfillment and the kind of day-to-day presence that you have in life is priceless in many respects. And that's why I call authenticity being yourself, being able to feel very comfortable in your own skin, to be able to express yourself, create whatever it is you want to create within reason. It has to be realistic given where you are, and come from that place of being and living versus trying to be someone you're not.
I love that. And I want to, since what we're talking about on this interview is potentially a little bit hard to grasp because it's not the 7 steps to a successful Facebook ad or something like that, I want to actually attempt to put together a little bit of a framework for people to follow if they want to learn how to become a great coach, and kind of follow in your path. And what first tipped me off to reach out to you is I was on udemy.com, which is like the largest website for online courses. And I Googled or I searched like grow online coaching business or something. And their top course is a life coach certification course. And it's got thousands of reviews and, it's sold so many copies. Whoever made that is making tons of money. And it's like 4 hours long. And I'm like, how the fuck can you become a life coach in 4 hours of watching a video and then you're certified? And what came to my mind is like, if anybody's certifying coaches, it should be David Foster. And I almost like made you a loom because I got all excited. Oh, David, I got this business idea. You should certify people to be great coaches because no one's better at this than you, and you would definitely do a better job in this 4-hour course. Anyways, that's a little a free idea you could run with if you want. But I am curious. Like, let's say you put together a program that was certifying, because people want to be certified. I mean, it's just something about that. So let's say you put together a program that was certifying coaches to be great coaches, or whatever it is you would call that. What would that program include? What would the modules or the chapters be, that people would go through in order to get great at coaching?
The first thing that comes to mind is it would follow the same outline as what I do now with clients, and particularly coaches. I've got a program called the 90-day Authentic Coach Program, and it takes people on a journey of introspection where they get clearer than they ever have about who they are in the world and who they want to be and what they want to create. So the modules in that are values, purpose, being, goals, vision, plan. And I won't go into great detail about those just yet because there are many moving parts of those and various processes. But the reason I would start there is because I think it's very difficult to help someone as a life coach get clarity in their own life if you haven't got a degree of clarity about who you are, what you stand for, who you want to be, and what you want to create in your own life. And often many people who are the best coaches are the ones who have gone to a coach, had an experience that was life-changing, gone, actually, I want to pass this baton on to other people. So I would start there and help the person who I was working with, as part of their certification, be really clear on those areas first, and then go out and start to practice coaching. Because one of the things that makes the best coaches is not sitting there reading about coaching or watching videos about coaching or philosophizing about coaching. They're all useful elements of educating yourself, but it's actually getting with human beings and practicing coaching, practicing asking intuitive, powerful questions that really help the other person. Because no amount of reading or self-education will make up for actually being connected heart to heart with a human in the present moment and doing your best to help them. So that would be the second element after the clarity piece. Do you want me to keep going, or?
Let me stop there and give people an example of one of those that I think will help drive it home, which would be the values piece. Because to me, if someone said, well, what did David Foster help you with over all these years you worked with him? One of the first things that's going to pop in my mind is you helped me identify what my core values were. And the first core values aren't just like a mission statement that says honesty and integrity that you put on the wall. It's actually like what you care about. What are you doing? If you had a video camera on this person, what would they spend what are the top 3 ways they would spend their time and energy and money and thoughts and everything? And for me, my number one thing was the education business, specifically learning and teaching and sharing and podcasting and all that. And when I first discovered that, my business was flipping houses. It had nothing to do with that. And so my life was not set up upon my core values. And when I transitioned to a business that fueled my number one core value, the business is, and it's in alignment with that value, everything changed for me. Work no longer felt like work. I just felt like in alignment with who I actually am, my day-to-day actions. So that would be an example of what he means by values, guys. That's one of the core things I took away from learning, the core things I learned from you.
It's a really, really salient point, because I think the word values gets bandied around a lot, and people, like you say, they pick certain traits that they label themselves with and say, I'm an honest person, or I have integrity and I'm kind. And yes, that's true, but there's the other side of those traits that we all have. People who are honest have also been dishonest in their life. People who are kind have also been cruel. So they're not really values. And I had this really hammered home when I worked with a brilliant teacher who I still work with today, called Dr. John DeMartini, who has got a fantastic process for determining your values. But when I discovered that, so many dots became joined up for me, because I don't think many people really understand what it is that's most important in their life. And when you discover those, you kind of start to eliminate many, many things and focus just on your highest priorities. And so if you look at my life now, the way I spend my time is pretty simple. My values are based around my family, connection with my wife and my 2 young sons. I wrote a book called Where's Dad, which kind of gives you a clue about how important that is to me. I love deep work and connecting and coaching with people, so I do that most days. I love writing and speaking. I'm here speaking now. I wouldn't do this if I didn't love doing this. So, and keeping fit and exercising, educating myself. So everything else kind of gets put to one side. I'd rather kind of do those things than most other things in my life. So, but many people are unconscious of that. So if you can get a deep level of clarity on what those things are for you, the things that have most meaning in your life, and kind of engineer your life around them, you use the word align. I call it authenticity. Everything just starts to fall into place. You attract people, situations, events, opportunities into your life that are very much aligned with who you want to be in the world and the values you have, and your values have a correlation to your purpose too. And you just feel more comfortable in your own skin, more in flow, and you're willing to take on goals that have challenges associated with them versus running away. Many people take on goals and they need to be motivated to try and get the goal. Whereas when you're intrinsically inspired because a goal is aligned to what you care about, a value in your life, you don't need someone to give you a prod in the morning and say, oh, you better get up and do that thing, because you want to do it. You want to record podcasts. You want to do YouTube videos because you love it, Brian. There's something about it that just makes you feel alive. So when you find those things and you start to design your life around those things and be authentic, everything starts to shift. And I don't think many people sort of get that piece until often it's too late.
Yeah, it gives you a really simple framework for making decisions about what you're going to include in your life, what you're going to exclude, what you're going to keep versus delegate. It's really the foundation of everything. So that's a great takeaway. So if someone wants to become a great coach, part of it is understanding their values and making sure their own life is based upon those values, because otherwise it would be difficult to go out and tell other people or show other people how to do that if you hadn't done it yourself. And then the other thing you mentioned was actually getting some experience coaching other people. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because I actually went through your Authentic Coach program last year. It was an amazing, transformative program. I definitely recommend you guys check it out. I'm going to put links to David's, all of his, ways to contact him and his book in the description. But one thing that stood out to me, David, from that time in the program were the days where we coached each other in the group. Just at the end of those calls, I just got it from the computer feeling like, all right, that was something that was powerful. I grew a little bit today. Because I was challenged. I was on my growth edge of trying to be better at coaching. And so I think that and I don't know of any other coaching program out there that, takes clients and has them coach each other with somebody, a experienced coach giving feedback. But I think there was something really powerful about that. And I want to let you speak to that a little bit about, why you chose to have us do that, and maybe some tips for what to do in those moments, to be a great coach and facilitator.
Yeah, of course. And before I answer that, I want to just put a little pin in that, because there's an insight I had that I think would be really useful for your watchers of this video, your subscribers, around values and why it's important to get really clear about what's important to you when you're coaching. And it's probably not what you think. If you're not clear on what your values are, you're probably going to be, sometimes if you are clear on what your values are, you're probably going to be projecting your values onto other people when you coach them. And I'll give you a specific example to make it concrete. Let's say you are a coach who loves his kids and loves, being a present parent. Okay, you can be a man or a woman, doesn't matter. And you're coaching a business owner who has different values. Their values are wealth building and growing a business. And you're a coach with a value on family, for example. So you've got different values, as we all have. Everyone's values are as unique as a fingerprint or a retinal scan. And you're in a coaching conversation with this business owner, and they say to you, "Oh, do you know what? It's just tough. I just want to get to work, but my wife keeps moaning about me not seeing the kids." If you have a high value on family, you're not conscious of that, you will try and coerce and tell that person to be someone they're not, and trying to get them to become a family man when actually they care more about money and business. So when you know your values, you can slow things down in a coaching conversation and make sure you're not projecting your belief system onto the person and being an empty container and just working with whatever they give you, not trying to change them or transform them, but hearing and listening to them deeply from a very balanced, empty place, and using your intuition to ask the right questions that you think is going to help them have an insight so they're self-empowered. And many coaches don't get that piece, and that they're continuously projecting their values onto their clients and wonder why they don't renew, or wonder why they kind of recoil or the energy changes on a call. It's because they don't want to change themselves. They are who they are. So seeing that as a coach can be really powerful. I just wanted to flag that because that kind of makes that values point a bit more salient, I think.
Yeah, I love that. And so is it, help me make the connection between like me knowing my own values and then also making sure I don't project those values onto a client. How does me knowing my own values kind of prevent me from projecting? Because I feel like I still do that. I'm like, why doesn't everyone want the life that I have? I got to, you know what I mean? And, yeah. But I know my values. Yeah.
We all do. I'm doing it today. I'm talking about values and purpose and authenticity and creativity. And, so it's not a case of switching that part of ourselves off day to day. But in the coaching container, where someone's paying you for you to help them with their life, it helps to know your values. And the link is you can then create a way of being principle, which is something I do with my clients, where you can make a conscious choice about how you want to be and who you want to be on these coaching calls. So outside the coaching calls, I'm going to be this kind of person. In my social life, I'm going to be this way. When I step into, a virtual room like Zoom and put my coach's hat on, I'm going to choose to have a principle where I'm non-judgmental. I slow things down and don't project my values onto the person. And I listen really, really carefully to what they're saying and what they're not saying. There's 3 examples of principles you can choose to consciously connect with when you're playing the role of being a professional coach. Now, you might not necessarily have those principles when you're outside of that container, but you can consciously choose that when you're working as a professional. But it's hard to do that if you don't know your values. So I hope that answers your point.
That makes sense. It also makes sense that you wouldn't necessarily want to be that way outside of your business, because when you're drinking wine with your friends at a dinner party, they don't want you to coach them, right? They want to just have fun.
I've made that mistake several times and learned some hard lessons where I've crossed boundaries and was doing what I thought was helping someone by coaching them without permission, and then realizing that I've lost a friend over it because I've just gone to places that I had no permission to go there. They weren't paying me to be their coach. They were having a dinner party or a glass of wine. So and that once again, that comes with practice, knowing who to be in a coaching relationship as a professional, who to be out of it. And so raising your level of consciousness and awareness about who you want to be in these different domains of your life. Who do I want to be as a parent? Who do I want to be as a partner or a husband or a wife? Who do I want to be as a coach? Who do I want to be as a friend? And really owning those things, it just makes life much simpler because you've got those internal structures to lean on versus having to worry about, well, God, how do I show up today? You choose it. You lead your life versus being led by life.
I think that's a really important point. This is something I'm still trying to personally figure out, and in my own life is the idea of to give an example. I was listening to a video that Alex Hormozy did a couple of days ago, and he was talking about the be, do, have. He's like, we've all seen that before. You got to be the person who would do the activities to have what you want. If you just are doing it like I'm just going to lose weight, because I need to spring break or whatever, you might lose 20 pounds. So you'll have that result, but then it'll go away. But if you become the person who just exercises because that's just who you are, then you do it and you have the outcome, and it's more permanent. And I wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on this. His little hack for being who you want to be is to have and this is kind of what you just said, to have a list of a few people. Like, well, what would Brendan Burchard do in this moment? What would David Foster do right now? And then just do whatever the answer is when you're trying to decide who you're going to be. And I will say, after I heard that, I was like, you, David, are someone who I have drawn upon multiple times in my life since we started working together. There's just been moments where well, what would David do in this moment? And it wasn't always business, it was maybe, personal life stuff too, just because I respect you and look up to you. And that helped me to make a different decision. And so I know there's a lot of ways that you can change your state of being. I wonder what you think about that way, because to me, it's really simple, and I don't know if it definitely works because I just started trying it, but I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, I think it's a great point you make there, and that's definitely a way you can practice with. And I don't think there is one way or a right way or a wrong way. I think it's like all these kind of things. You have to try these on, much like if you're going to buy a new shirt to wear on an evening out. You probably don't buy the first shirt. You try it on, and does it fit okay? And what the colour's like? And you might try 3 or 4, and finally you go, oh, do you know what? Actually, I like this material. I like this fit. I like this cut. And then you're good to go with that. So I don't think there's a particular way to wed yourself to. You've got to practice it and see if it makes a difference and helps in your life. I've tried what you've expressed there a few times in my life previously, and they've definitely been a benefit. And I also, in my own life, I don't practice that way now because I've done a lot of personal introspection around my values and my purpose and my own way of being, where I realize actually I'm good to just be me. So I haven't got to try and pretend to be someone else where I am now in my life. That might change. So it comes down to whether or not it's going to help you. And if doing that practice is going to help you create the life that you want and make you feel fulfilled and inspired and give you energy and you feel enthusiastic, fantastic. And if it doesn't, that's okay too.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. This isn't, because when you hear advice from successful people, sometimes, at least for me, it can make me feel inferior or incomplete. Like, well, I'm not doing this, so that must be the reason why I have all these problems. But really, if the equation is be, do, have, with have being at the end, you want to have certain results. If you already have the results and you're already doing the things, then you are already being the person you need to be. So it's not like you're completely broken and you need to every 10 minutes ask yourself, what would Warren Buffett do right now? It's really just, I think I'm almost seeing it now as more of like you can take it or leave it. You can use it when it's needed. You can use it for, if you have a certain goal, like I want to get in shape, you could use it and have a inspiring fitness figure that you say, what would that person do today? Would they drink the smoothie or eat the pizza, but it's not like your whole life has to be enclouded by this trying to be somebody else.
No, and I think you have to kind of walk that path on your own first and realize that it's going to have a benefit, but there might come a time where that benefit expires and you're on to the next level of personal development and growth. And that's okay. Everyone's at different stages of their own kind of progression and journey through life. And if it helps, fantastic. And when it stops helping, perhaps look for something else. And that's really okay. So that's my own experience anyway. Would you like me to touch back on the coaching elements, the things that can help you become a better coach? You kind of asked a really great, powerful question. And then I diverted you back to values. And I don't want to sort of lose that piece.
That was my fault for not finishing the values conversation. So let's divert back to that and go ahead.
Yeah. So don't project your own values. have some principles. Have some principles about who you want to be as a professional coach in the container when you're with clients. And then another really great thing is to look for, when you're actually with someone, is to really not listen to your own thoughts and try and make it about you, but be as present as you can. And I do that by connecting with my breath and trying to be very, very grounded and to hear and really deeply listen to the other person. And this is a skill that many coaches don't have, and it takes a lot of time and years of practice that can happen inside a coaching relationship, but also with your wife or husband, with your children, with your friends. You can see how often you're actually really listening to them, or whether you're listening to your own thoughts about them, and really sink in. So practice is available to you 24/7 in all areas of your life for this skill, this deep listening skill. And it's not just about being present and deep listening. It's about then going, actually, I didn't understand what that person said. And I was taught this at E-Myth about a decade ago, and they call this symbolic language. So a business owner, for example, would get on a trial call with me, and they would say, "Oh, hey, David, good to see you." I'd say, "Oh, good to see you too, Bob. How are you doing?" And they go, "Oh, yeah, things are great. You know how it is. Busy, busy, busy. Yeah, I don't know. Time never seems to stop. And wow, there's so much going on." Now, most coaches would go, "Know what you mean? Yeah, I've been there, man. I've been there." And then on to the next question or whatever. They might be using a sales script, which we did at E-Myth many years ago. Don't use them now. But if you hear that, what Bob said in that role play, busy, 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 like, what the hell does busy, busy, busy mean? Or how it is, and no, I don't know how it is. So slowing myself down, being present, like I said, Bob Sweet said, I'm not quite sure. What do you mean by busy, busy, busy? And then you're peeling one layer of the onion back to start to get to what's really going on. Because Bob might have a whole world of pain going on, but he doesn't feel safe. He feels scared, doesn't know if he can trust you to say what's really going on yet. So he says, busy, 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 to kind of give you some sort of smokescreen. When really he's saying, I'm overwhelmed, I'm tired, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay my salaries this month with my staff, not speaking to my wife, I need some help, but I'm scared of trusting you. You've got to try and get to that place by unraveling what he means by busy, busy, busy. So that's how I said to Bob, what do you mean by busy, busy, busy? I've got a lot on. This morning's it's been one of those mornings. What the hell does one of those mornings mean?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you mean by one of those mornings? And you keep going that in that kind of pattern when they're saying things to you that you don't understand. You don't want to assume and project that you know what they mean. You want to be really open and really have a broad mindset. And after a few layers of that, and some people move quicker than others, you'll start to get to what's really going on for Bob. And many coaches don't do that. They're looking to kind of just whiz through coaching sessions so they're not overly present with their clients. And they wonder why the clients either don't renew or don't convert to being or prospects don't convert to being a client, because they don't feel heard or listened to or seen. And that's all anyone wants. So I hope that answers your question around one of the things that can be really useful. It's around listening for that symbolic language and actually listening to it, hearing it, and then being professional enough to ask the question, I don't know what you mean. What do you mean by that? Whereas some coaches, they feel a bit too reserved and scared of challenging the client or the prospect. And people want to be challenged on their thinking. That's why they come into it. Even if they don't know it, that's what they want. To knock them out of their patterns and their habits that are getting them the results that they want. Their way of being is driving what they're doing, and they're having certain results. People want the having piece to change, but the having piece won't change until you start to understand what they're doing and work out what internal way of being they're coming from. So those questions around symbolic language get to the heart of the matter, the root cause inside their way of being. And when you work with that, you help people transform and empower their lives.
That's beautiful. And you're reminding me of all the different coaching sessions we've had. And, what you would do is you would usually start them just like, so Brian, where are we going today? These beautiful open-ended questions, which I recommend people try, if you work with clients one-on-one or groups, is just to let the client do sort of the download, because that's what you would do with me. And I'd say, well, David, I'm thinking about starting this podcast, but I don't know. And I can't decide on my strategy and blah, 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 blah. I might talk for 10 straight minutes or whatever. And, you'd never interrupted me once. And even at the end of that, you would have picked up on one or two things that were maybe some symbolic language or just things you just didn't understand. And you'd say, you said this, tell me more about that. So another open-ended, continuation. And ultimately we would just keep exploring on the call. And then I would find out that, I was trying to decide between two things, and I was, wanting to do one, but I was projecting, with the other thing. I thought I needed to be like Tim Ferriss or something, and I needed to do a podcast or whatever. And you would kind of help me see that I wasn't maybe being authentic to like who I really was. But you never told me that. It's just we just kept diving deep, kind of going on a journey together. And then by the end of the call, it was almost like clockwork. I look at the time, I'm like, we got like 10 minutes left. And wow, there I am saying out of my own mouth what I actually needed to find that day. And then I would always, get up and, leave our Zoom call. And it felt like, 15 pounds were kind of lifted off my shoulders. It was like, I got that dose of clarity that I really needed, what I really needed. And so that was my experience, of working with you. And that's why I think you're such a great coach.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. And it takes two to tango, so you are a very committed client committed to your own personal development and growth, and you want to go to the next level. So very, very coachable. So I take that to heart, and also, you had a part to play in that as well. And you mentioned a word there, clarity, that I think is often undervalued. I often thought about calling myself a clarity coach, because that's what most of the sessions I have end up being about with people. It can be massive decisions in their business or their life or their practice, clarity around their spiritual life, their mental well-being, their professional life, their family, all these different areas, really. And there's massive value in that. You think about, if someone's watching this video, think about how many times you've sat there awake at night or woken up early in the morning with not knowing which way to turn with a certain direction that's giving you a lot of anxiety, and it kind of blindsides your whole day and creates a lot of brain fog and mind noise because you just don't know which way to turn. But once you find that piece of clarity of yourself, the kind of mist clears and you're good to go. And I think great coaching often is around clarity. But how do you market clarity?
Good question.
To point to something that you mentioned earlier on, it's very difficult. And so I think with the kind of coaching that I do, the best marketing is referrals, obviously, is through giving people a great experience with your coaching. And also, if someone's not a client, giving them a taster session or two. And every coach has their different way of enrolling clients. And if I feel someone is potentially someone I can help, who's going to be a match for my program, my side coaching, I'll give them some of my time so they can make an informed choice as to whether they want to work with me or not. I don't want them to make a blind decision where they're taking a massive leap of faith with this guy they don't know who may or may not be able to help them. So, but that's my style, and not all coaches are the same. And just speaking to that point, there are some coaches who'll be listening to this, depending on their school of training and how they've been coached in the past. The thought of having a client download for 10 minutes at the start of a conversation goes against everything they've been told. When I was first trained, I was told if someone was downloading, to cut their legs off at 30 seconds, to snap them out of their story, and kind of wake them up a little bit out of the narrative. And I've tried that, and it can be effective to a degree, but I coach people the way I like to be coached. And I think the way that I coach, where I let people express themselves and start to process, is not the only way, is the point I'm trying to make. There are a myriad of ways of helping people. So it's really important to understand what your style of coaching is and where you get your best results and where you feel most in flow, and stick to that. Don't try and be someone that you're not, which is a trap that many coaches fall into. I know that when I started working with coaches, I would just copy their language and their style and their questions, and it would kind of get results, but I'd always feel a bit like, a bit synthetic, as in, that wasn't really me. I just used his language. And over time, through the practice, you find your own language. You stop playing cover records if you're a musician in a band, and you start writing your own music.
I love that. And that point you brought up a second ago about clarity, I think is really important, because I know I personally can really resonate with how many mornings I've woken up and I've been like, well, what the hell am I doing again? What projects am I? What are my goals? Do I need to go read the Google Doc or make a new one because I don't like the old goals? And I think a lot of people are going to resonate with that. And I want to share just real quick what helped me with that. And it was through our work together, along with reading some of Simon Sinek's work, as you know, about finding my why. Because, you mentioned earlier, like if you were going to create a certification program to help someone, it'd be who they are, finding out who they are, finding out their values, finding out their purpose. Like those are the first few things you listed out as like the core. And for me, I used to always kind of be on the surface level of things, like trying to make strategic decisions about my business and really fretting over them. Like, should I start a YouTube channel? Do I need to grow my email list? Should I create a new program? Should I da-da-da-da-da-da? And it wasn't until I got really clear on my deeper why, my deeper mission or purpose, that all that started to go away. And it wasn't that I still have to make those strategic decisions, but like Simon says in his book, when you know your why, the specifics of how you carry it out can be held with a looser grip, meaning you don't have to wake up and be like, what direction am I going to go in? Because you kind of have more clarity around who you are and what your deeper purpose is. And then that can be fulfilled in many different ways. So, yeah, I just want to share that. And, have you had a similar experience to that, or what has helped you with that clarity, if not?
Yeah, I think there's a huge amount of value to what you share there. And I think clarity comes from doing the deep work around values and purpose and an intentional way of being, and having some principles around that, and holding them with a loose grip, because things can change. You're a dad now. I'm a dad of 2 sons. You've got a gorgeous daughter. When you had your child, and me too, our values change. We suddenly have a very high value on being a parent. It's like, wow, there's this little being in our lives, and I just feel so connected to this little being, and values shift. So maybe going out to the pub or the bar to watch a sports match isn't as important as being there for your child, especially when they're very little, those sort of things. So values shift and change. But clarity is, even though it happens, clarity is really important. And those foundational pieces can really help you get clear on the goals you want to put into your life, as long as they're aligned and authentic, the vision you've got for your life and your plan. And that's not to say those things are set in stone, because as Mike Tyson said, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. I was speaking to a client today who's done a load of work on values, purpose, being, goals, vision, plan. And the first quarter of this year is nearly up, and 2/3 of the thing they wanted to create have been done, and the other third have been knocked to the side because of something that came in their personal life that they hadn't accounted for. And that's okay, because life will present these things to you out of the blue that test you. And if you have clarity and a plan to lean on, and goals, and a solid way of being, and clarity on your values and purpose, you kind of take those bumps knowing you've got a structure to lean on to as well, and see them as part of life. So having clarity in all those areas is better than having no clarity at all. As far as I'm concerned with my own experience of life, that might change as I get older, but that's where I am now. And so having those things in place and having a filter to kind of look through to help you make daily decisions, it just makes life much, much simpler. And I like simple. I don't like complex.
Me too. So before we wrap up, is there anything else that I maybe should have asked you that I didn't, in the spirit of becoming a great coach?
I don't know.
Spoken like a great coach. I don't know. Yeah. I'm saying that because that's what came up. And also, it's okay to say, if a client asks you something and you don't know the answer as a coach, it's okay to say, I don't know. You don't have to have all the answers as a coach, because you're a human being just like them. So getting over that pride that can seep into lives of having to be the one who has the answers, has to teach, has to know everything, and just saying, actually, I don't know. That's okay. That's a very human way of being to bring into a coaching relationship. So the question I've got for you is, do you think, in the experience you've had of working me over the years, is there anything else that you've experienced you would like me to unpack before we wind the interview up? I don't think so. I think we covered it well for today. I think just reiterating what you already said would be valuable about being really present and being willing to kind of sink in deep with the client and listening, not having the agenda. I think there's been times where I've been on calls with clients and I'm too nervous to do that, because I think I need to have answers and they paid me a bunch of money, and I don't really trust myself to be present, if that makes sense, because I got my Post-it note and I'm going to tell them these things or whatever. And I don't want to lose my train of thought or not know what to say next or whatever. But I think and tell me if I'm right, I think that just comes with practice, just by doing it more and more. And do you just learn to trust yourself as a coach and
Yeah. So you've raised something really brilliant, actually, that I'm glad has just popped in my mind as you were talking. Often many coaches who have like outer uncertainty, where they might be about to go on a client call. They could be an experienced established coach. They're sitting there going, well, what do I say? I better not mess this up. I better make sure I ask a powerful question and try and get an insight and make sure we do this and do that. And all these thoughts are running around in their mind, and it creates like an internal tension that actually ends up disconnecting them from the person they're being with. It creates a lack of presence because they're thinking about their own thoughts and worrying about what's going inside them versus being with another human being. You know, we are blessed to be professional coaches where someone is entrusting us with an element of their lives they want help with, and we can change the course of or co-create with them a different future for them. That's amazing. And then their lives will never be the same again. If they're married, their relationship with their partner will probably never be the same, and their relationship with their kids. And the knock-on effects are huge of this work. It's really sacred work as far as I see it. So don't forget that as a coach. But the outer uncertainty is often down to an inner uncertainty. It's an external expression of what they're not sure inside. So if you're coaching something where you haven't experienced the profound impact of it before, you haven't got case studies, or you can't recall stories where it's actually really helped people, you're going to be a bit wobbly and uncertain on the inside. That's going to be externally expressed. So slowing it down and being really clear and really certain about the value that you have just for you being you and your own unique genius, and the way you've helped people in the past and what you love to coach, all those elements around authenticity can help build that inner certainty, that inner bank of value, that when you're then in a coaching session, you don't need all the reminders and tips and tricks there, because you're just slowing down, being really certain on the inside, and that's creating external certainty to really help the other person.
Wow, I love that. That is a perfect way to wrap up today's interview. We'll definitely have to do a part 2. Thank you so much for being willing to do this. And where could people go if they want to connect with you and learn more?
So I have a website. It's davidfoster.coach. You can go there. You can download some sample chapters of my book or join my email list, or you can check me out on Facebook. I think it's facebook.com/DavidBB Foster. I have a business page. I don't really use it. My personal profile is what I use on Facebook. And have a little look. And if what I have to share interests you, great. And if not, that's okay too.
I'm writing down all the links you mentioned. You're making me do some work here. I'll put all those links in the description, including the personal Facebook profile, so they can check out your posts. And
this is our great at marketing. I've got a YouTube channel as well. That's got some videos on there that tend to be quite useful for professional coaches. So
awesome.
And various other bits of added value content. So
There's another one.
I think I need a marketing coach, Brian.
Yeah, I'll do it. All right, David, thanks again for being here. And thank you everyone for watching. I hope you found this interview as valuable as I did, and we will see you in the next one.